Hello, fellow film buffs. This is Straight Shooter, and welcome to the second episode of How I See It. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you'll notice there's a little bit of a difference today. Why? Because I'm shooting at Team Sound Studios, which is owned and operated by my buddy and bandmate. He helped provide lighting, kind of built a set for me, so big shout out to him. So I'm here today, as you can tell by the title, to talk about Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle. It's a Netflix original movie. What I like about this movie? Well, it would be a shorter list if I talk about what I don't like about this movie. You know why? Nothing. I thought it was a great movie. And I'll go into the similarities and differences between this movie and the Disney animated movie and the live-action remake. The Disney movies are adaptations of the Rudyard Kipling Jungle Book series. But this is not an adaptation of those movies. This is another, more direct adaptation of that book series. So it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit grittier, there's no bursting into song, the characters aren't quite as goofy. Like Baloo, perfect example, Baloo, played by the king of motion capture, Andy Serkis. In the Jungle Book Disney movies, he was kind of a big, goofy guy, kind of lumbering and always hanging around Mowgli because they're best friends or whatever. In this movie, yes, he cares about Mowgli, just like Nigiri does, the panther. But he's also a badass. He's a drill sergeant to Mowgli and the other wolf cubs. He trains them so that they can be accepted into the pack when they're old enough to start hunting with them. And if they fail, if Nigiri catches them in a mock hunt, then they fail and they don't get to hunt with the pack. And that's essential to a wolf's life, because you definitely don't want to be an older wolf and not be able to hunt, because you won't be very good use to the pack. So Baloo is a drill sergeant, and Nigiri chases them. It's really cool. It's really more of a way to show you how you live in the jungle. And most humans don't live in the jungle. Animals live in the jungle. And they really showed how an animal lives. So the big difference between the books and the Disney movies are the Disney movies are kind of lighter, happier. They break into song. Everyone has a happy ending. Yes, you have the villain, but they're not as much of a threat as any other carbon copy Disney villain. Shere Khan in this movie is pretty damn ruthless. He wants to kill Mowgli from the get-go. He wants to erase his bloodline from the jungle so that he doesn't infect the animal's way of life, so that he doesn't mix with the wolf pack, and he's not actually considered a wolf. He tells the wolf pack, you poison the jungle by allowing him to live among you. And he ends up taking over from the alpha, and by the end of the movie, you can tell that a lot of the wolf pack have been killed off, because a lot of them were there when he started his reign, and by the end of the movie, there was but a few of them left. The other thing that I really like about this movie is how they really explore Mowgli's character more. His whole purpose, from when he came into the jungle up until he became, I guess he's a preteen by the time this, is to live, to be accepted among the animals. He doesn't know the human way of life. All he knows is the animal way of life. So when they realize that he's in danger from Shere Khan because he simply lives among them, they say, well, he has to be with his people. So they set him up. Nagiri purposely targets him in the mock hunt, and they say, you can't hunt. And then when Shere Khan challenges the alpha, Mowgli grabs a branch that's on fire and says, no one can come near him. And Shere Khan, if I find you here again, I'll kill you. And the alpha wolf banishes him and says, you used a man weapon against us. You brought shame to me. So there's this real deep, sad moment where he has to leave, and he goes to the human village, and he learns how to live among them. First they catch him, they put him in a cage, and Nagiri comes to him and says, I was a captive, but I learned not to bite and not to scratch, and I learned to gain their trust. If you can do that, you can live a good life. So he gives it a shot. He learns to hunt with them, he bathes, he eats food like them. He says to one of them, I'm home now. That is until he really gets to know the hunter that was kind of mentoring him, helping him out, teaching him the way that they live. And there's this moment in the village where he discovers the hunter's trophy room. And he sees the elephant tusk from the elephant that helped him out of a pit earlier in the movie. He sees the head of his childhood friend, who he kind of rejected. But when he saw that his friend was killed, it made him realize that he'd been all wrong about his purpose. It wasn't his purpose to live among the humans. It was his purpose to live among the animals, like he'd always been. And he says, I have to fight for my pack. I have to fight for my friends. I have to fight for my home. So he challenges Shere Khan. And he says, I'm going to kill you because you killed my parents and you're threatening my friends and you're killing off my pack. And there's this really cool moment in the movie where he makes a deal with the elephant. He gives him the tusk and says, if you help me kill the tiger, I'll show you the hunter that took your tusk. He calls out Shere Khan. And when Shere Khan comes out, the elephants surround him and form a circle pit, won't let him leave. Mowgli comes into the pit, and they have a fight to the death. I like the contrast between the Disney version, where the jungle's on fire, and they're threatening each other from a tree, and the tiger falls into the fire from the tree. I just thought that was very typical of a Disney villain ending, where they fall into fire, and they're going into the depths of hell, and stuff like that. But Shere Khan isn't human. Humans believe in heaven and hell and life after death and that kind of thing. Animals just know the animal way of life. And I'm going to reference another point in the movie early on, where Nagiri teaches Mowgli, when you hunt for a kill and you see that it's dying, you always want to look into its eyes directly so that the soul doesn't depart alone. So that happens at the end of the movie because Shere Khan's dying in front of him. And you see his eyes go down, and you see the life is leaving his body, and that's what Mowgli does. Shere Khan takes one last swipe at him when Mowgli thinks he's dead, and Mowgli just backs away and takes his knife and puts it through his skull. And he says, rest now, be angry no more. And I thought that was a really cool way to show how Mowgli has grown, because he was a kid, he didn't really understand how to navigate the trees as well. He didn't understand how to use all his four limbs to run faster. And he didn't understand the ways of the animal to hunt and to kill, to survive. And it showed that he understood that at the end. He understood what his purpose was. I can't say enough good things about the movie. I can go on, but how I see it, I thought it was a great movie. So I guess I'm going to leave it there. But that was Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, episode 2 of How I See It.